So he may not be as big as King Kong, but he is mighty. Mighty Joe Young. Mighty Joe Young is a movie from 1949. It's shot in black and white. It features a giant ape who is brought to life via stop-motion animation. It is not a sequel to King Kong, but it is kind of the spiritual successor of that movie. First of all, it's about a giant ape, right? Mighty Joe Young is not as big as King Kong. He's really only supposed to be like about 10 to 14 feet tall, something like that. And he isn't quite as much of a savage beast as the original Kong was. So this is kind of like a King Kong light, is what this is. Ray Harryhausen, in his first full role as lead animator, produced the stop motion effects for Mighty Joe Young. And they actually won an Academy Award for that, as a matter of fact, in 1949. It's like King Kong, but not quite as scary for the kids. Maybe a little bit more action, a little bit more humor, a little shorter of a movie. Now, I had gone a long time without seeing this movie, but I'd always heard of it ever since I was a kid. I actually saw the remake from, 1999, I think, with Bill Paxton and Charlize Theron. I guess animatronic and or CGI created Mighty Joe Young. I saw that one first, but I'd always known about this one. And I gotta say that upon viewing it, even though the special effects are, they're very dated, but the stop motion looks really cool, and even though the acting is kinda 1949, man, but still the story holds up, and the nostalgia factor of it makes this just a little bit more enjoyable than that other one. Although I do like that other one, and I'll get around to reviewing that one probably sometime in the future. But yeah, there's a lot to like in Mighty Joe Young. For me, I'm a huge fan of Ray Harryhausen's movies. I've always liked the stop motion effect style. But yeah, it's top notch here. Especially for its given its year. And of course, Mighty Joe Young is the star of the show. But, there's some human actors in there as well. We don't get the damsel in distress thing like we do in King Kong. Joe's basically, he's a giant gorilla, and he's very tame. He's actually like a friend, a companion to Jill Young, which is where Joe gets his last name from. As a little girl, Jill trades or purchases Joe from some hunters on her father's ranch in Africa. Just become the best of friends, and they're gonna always look out for each other, and they grow up together, and Joe grows up to be massive. He's like a good King Kong. Jill, living in Africa, is visited by Max O'Hara, who's this nightclub owner, entrepreneur, rich guy, promoter, whatever. Anyway, Max O'Hara, he's looking for jungle animals for his spectacle performance in his brand new nightclub that's going to be opening up, the Jungle Room or whatever it is, because everybody's all fascinated with lions and elephants and stuff. And so yeah, they stumble across Mighty Joe Young, and they're like, oh my god. First of all, they think he's attacking them, and they're trying to take him down. Then they realize, hey, don't kill him, we could use him in this act. But of course they've got to convince Jill, who they know is kind of responsible for Joe, also can keep him under control. They've got to go through her to make sure that's okay to bring Joe back to the US and put him in their nightclub act. And Joe's basically pretty much like Chewbacca in this. He's smart, but he just doesn't talk. But he understands, commands, and he understands the feelings of others and stuff. And he's just he's an ape, right? So Jill is convinced to bring Joe to New York to be in this nightclub act, and proves to be a huge success. Coincidentally, Max O'Hara, the nightclub promoter, rich guy, he's played by Robert Armstrong, same guy who played Carl Denham in King Kong. So he has kind of almost exactly the same role in this movie, except he's played more like J. Jonah Jameson than Carl Denham. He's a little goofier, a little funnier in this one, and he has a bit of a redemption arc as well. Maybe that's to make up for him exploiting Kong in 1933. Now he's gonna do right by Joe. Well, by the end of the movie. Anyway, but they take him to the nightclub in New York, and it is a big success, and people are like, wow, I can't believe this is the craziest thing. But meanwhile, there's a bunch of shots of this nightclub that they're in. There's like sound stages and stuff, but there's also like glass enclosures that have like lions in it and stuff, and like actual live animals, and it's like this jungle themed room or whatever. It holds several hundred people, and but there's shots of this bar, and there's like little quick cuts of the people, the patrons in the bar, and they're all drunk, and they're just a bunch of decadent rich idiots. And anyway, so they exploit Joe at the nightclub. There's like some rowdy drunk guys are in there, and they like throw stuff at Joe, and they hit him with a bottle or something, and Jill storms off the stage with Joe, but then these guys find their way backstage, and they're super drunk, and they bring an extra bottle with them, and they feed it to Joe in his cage. Then they continue to taunt him and like poke him and stuff, and even try and get him to smoke a cigarette or something. And anyway, they're just drunken assholes and messing with a giant gorilla. Drunk, stupid assholes. And Joe breaks out, and he freaks out, and he wrecks the nightclub, and it's a huge long scene, and there's, like I said, there's like lions in there and stuff, and he's beating up lions, and then he's wrecking the place, and the place starts on fire, and he just trashes everything. Doesn't kill anybody, but he freaks out and loses his shit and wrecks the nightclub. He's detained again. They're gonna basically like put him to death. They're going to euthanize him because he's too dangerous. And so they have to break Joe out of jail, and even Max O'Hara, who's responsible for capturing him in the first place, kind of kicks in and helps out and helps Joe escape from the nightclub. We get an escape scene. Then at the very end, just out of nowhere, they're driving past this orphanage that is burning down. And they go in and they rescue the kids, but there's one kid stuck up on the roof, and only Joe can get up there and save this kid from this burning building. And he kind of puts his own life in danger and sacrifices himself to save this child. He almost dies, but does not, and the kid is fine, and he rescues the kid. And so it's revealed that, well, Joe really is just a hero. He was just pushed too far or whatever. So they allow him to go back to Africa with Jill, which is what they should have done an hour ago. But yeah, overall, I mean, there's some really cool sequences, mostly of the nightclub act. Like, there's one part where he's like lifting up the platform that Jill's playing piano on. There's another one where he's like tug of war with a bunch of strong men, and yeah, and then the nightclub rampage. That's some fun stuff. Yeah, he's like beating up lions, and these poor lions, he just kicks the shit out of them, because they're all attacking him and stuff, because movie. So there's like a lot of special effects in here, a lot of stop motion, and it's all top notch. And yeah, say what you will, CGI might look better for certain things. King Kong, still the original King Kong, was a little more janky than this. Like the puppet wasn't quite as animated the same. I mean, like, that was 16 years earlier, and they're still using the same techniques. I'm sure they got a little better at it. It has such nostalgia to it, you know? And it makes me feel like a kid again, watching these movies where it's like something, you know it's not real, but they put a lot of effort into making it look real, and I think you can almost sort of feel the process, like if you've ever like posed an action figure, or played with toys, or created a sculpture, or, you know, they put so much work into this that you can really feel it all, when, like, it feels like you're actually manipulating the creature, or that you could. So this obviously was inspirational to a lot of folks out there, a lot of special effects guys and movie producers or directors or whatever. Yeah, it's a monster movie. It's a rampaging giant gorilla. But it's also like a, it's a story of friendship and sacrifice. And Mighty Joe Young has a good heart. The ape and the movie. So yeah, I enjoyed this quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and give Mighty Joe Young an A-. A- just because of, it's so old. And a lot of the entertainment value is, for me, is like nostalgia. Not like I was around when this came out or anything, but I remembered reading about it and hearing about it just since I was a kid. It made me feel like a kid again to watch this, so yeah. An overall solid, positive viewing experience, but it's just classic enough and nostalgic enough and has enough humor and heart in it to make it an A-. So I don't know, what is this, like the third giant ape movie that I've come across here on this channel? Let's see, we got King Kong Lives, also Ape vs. Monster. So the third time's a charm. I mean, King Kong Lives wasn't that bad, but Ape vs. Monster, man, oh man. Anyway, as far as giant ape movies go, Mighty Joe Young is probably one of the best. So stick around for my next, most likely non-giant ape movie review. And until such time, have a good one, everybody.